For most of human history, writing didn't exist. And even after it was invented, it took centuries for writing to become widespread. So how did people remember anything? It turns out they had some pretty impressive tricks. Hello and welcome to Life Noggin. Today we're exploring what life was like before writing was invented. If you ever want to get a sense of what life was like in a time period before writing, one of the best places to start is by reading a historical fiction novel set in that time. Many historical fiction authors do a lot of research to make sure their books are historically accurate, which means if you read a book set in ancient Rome, chances are you woe and be getting a cell phone call from your mother right in the middle of an orgy? Okay, probably not. But still, these types of novels can give us an idea of what life would have been like back before writing was around. Take the Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, for example. The story is a retelling of the Greek myth of Achilles and his journey during the Trojan War. And it's written from the perspective of Achilles' close friend, Patroclus. Now, this isn't just some random work of fiction. The author used a lot of research to make sure she accurately portrayed what life was like back then. So if we look at how characters retain knowledge and pass down stories in the novel, we can use that as a lens through which to view what life was like before writing. In the book, there is no such thing as reading a book or writing down important ideas. Instead, the characters in the novel learn about their culture, history, and mythology through storytelling and oral tradition. For example, early in the novel, we see this when Achilles and Patroclus arrive in the city of Sparta and meet King Peleus and his wife Queen Thetis. The couple are so happy to see Achilles because, according to legend, a prophecy foretold that their son would die young in battle, and they thought he must have died. But here he is, alive and well. To prove it, King Peleus asks Achilles, "What sign did the gods give you? What dream, what messengers sent by heaven?" Of course, Achilles doesn't know any of that, but Peleus continues. "Do you not know who I am, nor what sorrows brought us together, nor what doom the gods have laid upon me?" At this point, it's clear that both Peleus and Thetis have forgotten the prophecy. They don't know why they were destined to meet Achilles, and it was only through the retelling of the prophecy itself that they remembered. This shows that remembering prophecies and other stories was extremely important. If they weren't passed down through retelling, the stories would be lost forever. But the importance of retaining knowledge through oral tradition extended beyond just stories. Characters in the novel also passed down legal codes and cultural norms through songs and poems. Example, at one point the Greeks are preparing for war with the Trojans, but they need to come up with a plan to get the Trojans to let them inside the city walls. The hero Odysseus has an idea, but first he warns his comrades. "I have a plan, but it will need much cunning. Much cunning to persuade the Danaans and the wide, thundering Achaeans, stubborn and headstrong and self-opinionated, not to be persuaded." He knows that convincing his fellow Greeks might be difficult, so he asks for the help of Demodocus, a court poet who sings epic poems to a lyre. Odysseus tells him, "Sing now, muse, of the stratagems that stretch far and wide throughout the host of the Achaeans, that they may hear and be eager to follow my plan." Demodocus plays his lyre and sings of Odysseus' plan, which is later successfully carried out. Again, this shows how important retaining knowledge and passing it on through song was to the culture of ancient Greece. It wasn't just stories, prophecies, laws, and plans that were memorized and passed down through retelling and song. People also remembered massive amounts of information in the form of names and locations in something called a memory palace. A memory palace, also known as a method of loci, is a form of memory enhancement that uses visualization and spatial memory. According to a study published in the journal Frontiers in Psychology, the method of loci has been around since ancient times. In fact, the oldest known record of a memory palace comes from a Greek poem called Theogony by Hesiod, which was written around 700 BCE. In it, Hesiod describes how his muse instructed him to think of his birthplace, the slopes of a mountain called Helicon, and to imagine a door in the wall of his house. Behind that door, he was to picture a white-robed female figure holding a distaff, and this would help him to remember everything he needed to say. Since memory palaces were created long before writing was widespread, scholars believe that they were used to memorize large amounts of information in the absence of writing. Researchers also suggest that the technique was often used by poets, lawyers, and politicians. And we have some evidence of that in the Iliad, when Nestor, an old and wise Greek warrior, is giving advice to Telemachus, son of Odysseus, on where to find his father. He says, "There are many cities of men that I have seen in my time, and many peoples who speak different languages, having sailed around the rich earth on every side. And many things I have learned from redders who hold converse with strangers in their cities, some by the sea, others in the interior. And thus my knowledge of all lands has been enlarged." In Homeric Greek, the verb used for sailing around the earth is nautikin, which also meant to travel mentally or imaginatively. So scholars theorize that Nestor is using a memory palace to remember everything he's learned on his journeys. While memory palaces and song-based history were ways of remembering and passing down important information, there was another way that people in ancient cultures kept track of important things, and that was through the development of math and science. Take astronomy, for example. Many cultures across the globe independently developed complex systems for tracking stars and planets, which they used to predict seasonal changes and develop calendars. These systems helped farmers plan when to plant and harvest crops, and they also served as a way to keep track of time. Ancient civilizations like the Babylonians and Egyptians also made significant advancements in mathematics. They developed sophisticated methods for calculating areas and volumes of shapes, and they used this knowledge to solve practical problems, such as surveying land or predicting the flooding of the Nile River. These advancements in math and science would have been possible without development of number systems and basic tools like the abacus. All of these inventions helped humans keep track of things in the absence of writing. But even though math and science and memorization techniques allowed humans to keep track of things, it wasn't until writing was invented that things really started to change. Writing gave people the ability to record information in a permanent form, which allowed them to capture and preserve knowledge, ideas, and events in a way that was much more reliable than relying on memory or oral tradition. The invention of writing is often credited to ancient Mesopotamian civilizations, such as the Sumerians. By around 3200 BC, the Sumerians had developed a system of writing called cuneiform, which used wedge-shaped marks impressed into clay tablets. This innovation allowed for the recording of transactions, the creation of literary works, and the preservation of historical accounts. The impact of writing on human society was profound. It enabled the transmission of knowledge across generations, facilitated trade and commerce, and enabled the growth of cities and civilizations. Writing also had a profound impact on religion, law, and power. Religious texts, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Bible, were written down, which helped to standardize religious practices and beliefs. Legal codes, such as the Code of Hammurabi, were also recorded, which provided a basis for the administration of justice and the protection of property rights. Writing also gave those in power a new tool to maintain control over their subjects. Through written laws and decrees, rulers could communicate their authority and ensure compliance. Written records could also be used to glorify rulers and their achievements, helping to build their reputations and solidify their legacy. As you can see, writing changed everything. It allowed humans to keep track of pretty much anything. And while it certainly has its benefits, sometimes it's nice to look back and see how we managed before it was invented. So do you have a favorite era of history that you wish you could go back to? Let us know in the comments section below. As always, thank you for watching. And if you want to help keep this channel running, you can join our community on a crowdfunding platform. The link is in the description. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified about new videos every week. And remember, this platform is a wonderful place to learn something new every day.